Hey, ladies and gents, welcome to our pre-E3 coverage here at Controlled Interest. This time we're talking about Bethesda. As always, I'm joined by Dom.
Praise the sun.
Jordan.
Actually, Jared, it's pronounced Bethesda.
And returning guest for, I think, maybe the third year in a row, Logan Moore.
Fallout 76, 2018 Game of the Year.
Oh, nice. All right.
Ice cold.
Coming in hot, piping hot. Logan, obviously from DualShockers, if you're not familiar, they do a bunch of video game news and features and stuff like that. So we'll talk about that more at the end of the show. But glad to have you back again for the third year running, Logan.
Thank you for having me back. I always enjoy coming on this and talking about all things E3 with you guys before the show kicks off.
Man, if only our dreams come true. This one, out of most of the conferences that we're having, is weird. Obviously because of what Bethesda's kind of endured the last 12 months since the previous E3.
Good Lord.
And the way I didn't have an issue with their conference last year, but a lot of people felt that it was very self-indulgent, right? They waited for claps for announcements. They were very much in the moment of the audience loving everything Bethesda does.
More importantly, Jared, did you have an issue with the material of the bags used in the limited edition?
I completely forgot about that. Yeah. We'll get into that stuff
The
specifically.
Fall of 76 by Internet Historian. Solid video. Check it out.
I watched that the other night, actually.
The crazy thing, too, is, you know, when the Fallout 76 stuff happened, we'll get to Fallout 76 later, people thought that there was no coming back from that. Obviously, there always is. And then Anthem happened, and people have kind of forgotten about Fallout 76, and now it's the Anthem train. So, but let's hop into what they did last year in terms of the games and announcements they had and how they reflect on this year's show. So, Rage 2 opened the show last year. They had Andrew WK on stage, melting faces with his guitar.
Oh, God.
They had the really funny presentation with one of the guys from id and one of the guys from Avalanche, who were both varying heights. One guy was like 5'8", and the other guy was like 7 foot tall. It was made for a very funny dynamic on stage. Anyways, we got the cinematic trailer for Rage 2. We got the gameplay trailer, an extended look at it. We got the release date, which was May 14th. Recently came out. And I guess what I want to ask you guys is, it didn't come out to great critical reception. It's middling, right?
Yeah.
Mid-70s-ish.
Yeah.
They have a roadmap, like most games do now. And we know that the Rise of the Ghosts expansion is set to release in August. I guess it's a two-part question. One, where do you think Rage sits at currently, Rage 2? And do you think we'll see this expansion for sure, like the reveal and teaser trailer for it, Rise of the Ghosts?
Oh, definitely. They'll show it off for sure.
Yeah.
Even though the first Rage did not do well at all, or, you know, this one is at least middling reviews. I don't even think that Rage 1 could say that much. So it seems like they've at least got something to work with, and I think that, you know, expansions, updates, and just keeping the game alive, they could turn it around.
Yeah.
Rage 1 actually had a higher Metacritic score. Interesting.
Did it?
Shit.
Yeah.
What am I?
It was in the 80s.
I thought it was.
Yeah, people
Maybe
just
it's
hated
just
the
good-
ending of that game, I think. The ending was like the one thing that everybody universally hated, because it just was like you were playing a mission and then out of nowhere the credits just started
It
rolling.
just
And it
started,
was like
yeah.
legitimately
I think-
the end
What
of
the
the
hell?
game.
There may be also some kind of revisionist history there where people enjoyed it when it originally came out.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard a nice word about that game.
Dragon Age Inquisition style, yeah.
There you
Yeah,
go. We've talked about
exactly.
that a lot, yeah.
The way games review and the way games are talked about after they're released is like totally different from one another.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we'll probably see a trailer for this new expansion or whatever. Have any of you guys played it? I was just like,
No,
curiosity.
I've read quite a bit about it, and the thing I'll say is I was talking about this before it released, Logan, that I was looking for an open world game just to get lost in, right? I was feeling that after Sekiro, I just like want to play something that doesn't involve a lot of thought, right? And I was like, if it reviews decently okay, so at least like maybe high 70s, low 80s, I'll hop into it at launch. The fact that I got middling scores means that like I'm just gonna wait for a sale. I'm not willing to justify $60 when there's other things I can play. And from what I've read from people's reviews of the game is that the shooting mechanics and the actual like core gameplay of it is solid. It's just that the open world and the missions and everything around that aren't great. And to me, that stuff can be fixed with a solid expansion, right? Because if your gameplay is great and all the stuff around it is bad, if you introduce an expansion with a world that does things right, that can save it. So I have promise for the expansion, but in terms of the base game, I have no interest in getting it anytime soon.
Yeah, I've been playing it. It's just, it feels so empty. Like that's the biggest criticism I have. Like it's there's nothing to do in that.
Rage.
Yeah, the original was like that too. Yeah, there's like nothing to do in that game world unless you head from point A to point B where the things are actually going on. And they try to throw some things in there that are fun, like random like little events or whatever, but none of them are great. I don't know. It could have been way better.
Would you say that it, instead of what we thought it was going to be, is a collaboration 50-50 split with Avalanche and id, and from what I've read, it seems like it's mostly an Avalanche game with like id shooting mechanics.
Yeah, I think Avalanche was actually the primary developer on it, and then id just kind of like gave them the thumbs up in certain areas, like, yeah, that seems good with this area. I don't know. We actually interviewed one of the id guys behind it a couple weeks back at DualShockers, and he kind of told us how the game was segmented with development, and he said it was mainly an Avalanche pursuit. So yeah,
and I mean their primary focus was this because we saw that Just Cause 4 came out and seemed like a rushed, empty, hollow game in and of itself.
Yeah,
it seemed like their whole focus was on Rage.
They've been doing way too much stuff lately, because they had that, and then they had Just Cause, and now they have this, and then they released some game
Generation Zero.
Yes, Generation Zero, which was like blasted. Like Metacritic score for that is really terrible. Like maybe 50s or lower. That game was really terrible. So yeah, they've had a lot of projects going on over there, but none of them are good. So they need to maybe just slow down for a second.
Shape up.
And focus. Yeah. I don't know if there's much else to say about Rage 2. Are you guys cool with moving on? Yeah. Elder Scrolls Legends. So this is an interesting card game. It's not Hearthstone, it's not Magic the Gathering Arena, but it has found a space of some interest. So it was stated actually last year at E3 that it was coming to consoles at the end of 2018. That never happened. It still hasn't been ported. Their latest expansion, because they're doing research for the show, it went live on April 14th, and it was titled Alliance Wars. One of the things that I was worried about is that a lot of these card games, they don't find success, or just smaller games in general, and then they disappear. The fact that they did have this new expansion in April means that they are still trying to support it. It is a solid card game in and of its own right. I do think that because it really hasn't found life on PC in the way that Hearthstone and MTG Arena have, it needs to get ported to find value in it, right? So I assume we'll possibly see the ports, likely mobile and Switch before Xbox and PS4, but I don't know if any of you guys have tried it out or played it. Do you guys think that it not being ported is a signal that maybe Bethesda isn't supporting it as much as they wanted to or needed to?
It's probably just delayed, right? I assume that'll still happen sometime this year.
Yeah. I mean, the worry is that they saw that it was the support for it was declining so steadily that it wasn't financially right for them to invest in porting it. So
yeah.
That's
I don't know. Yeah. I feel like they if we don't hear from it, then yeah, I think it's definitely like entering the last days. If nothing else, I think we will see. They always have a brief segment in these things this year, or every year it seems like, where it's like, oh, now let's talk about Elder Scrolls, and they talk about this, and they talk about online, which we'll talk about here in a second as well. It seems like they always touch on all of those like surrounding spin-off franchises that they have, and I'm sure they'll mention this for 90 seconds or something like that during the presentation.
Yeah, my dream, honestly, is I really hope that a worst case scenario, it makes its way into Elder Scrolls 6 as like a Gwent type thing. Because I do think it's a solid, fun game, but I do worry that it's not sustainable enough on its own, right? And I just hope that maybe they add it into the world of Elder Scrolls in the way that Gwent was in Witcher, where it's like a side mini game kind of thing, right? I think that'd be really cool. I enjoy it, but it isn't necessarily my favorite card game, and I agree with you, Logan, that if we don't see it, I think it's probably marking the end of days for Elder Scrolls Legends.
Yeah, what is the state of card games right now, Jared? You would certainly know better than I.
So Hearthstone is waning pretty strongly. People have had issues with that game for about the last 18 months. It just seems stale.
It doesn't seem like Artifact came out to a lot of...
Artifact was
Artifact's
pretty much
dead.
a failure. Yeah.
Artifact I think is like concurrent player base, like per 24-hour periods. It's peaking at like 750 players.
The big thing for
fucking Christ.
Maybe
the big
lower.
thing for Valve right now is Dota 2 Auto Chess, which is like a mod that a community member made. Artifact, was a failure, which is interesting because it was created in collaboration with the man who created Magic the Gathering. Now,
Wow.
Magic the Gathering Arena is actually spiking. It's huge in popularity right now. They've launched the esports scene this year. It's seeing a lot of money come in through Twitch and a lot of different avenues. So the funny thing is that Magic had always had digital versions of its game, but they were always like afterthought productions, right? They didn't really have a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Something of life. I'm brain farting.
Quality of life.
Quality of life improvements that allow.
Facts of life.
I was just brain farting, man. I couldn't think of
Facts of life.
Yeah. So with Magic the Gathering Arena, they actually looked strongly at Hearthstone because it was so successful at the time, and they took a lot of what Hearthstone did right and added it to the game. They recently added custom card backs and a lot of different avenues for collecting different customization options for your decks. It does have microtransactions in it, but it's one of those things that they don't feel like great, but they don't feel bad either. It's like they're there because the game is free to play, right? They're not invasive or in your face, but they're not necessarily the best microtransactions on the planet.
Sounds like that may be rising from the ashes of the other card games.
Well, and the thing that Magic has over Hearthstone, and this is a very in-the-weeds card game thing, is that you can interact with your opponent on any turn, either if it's yours or theirs, with instants and flash cards and stuff like that, right? The problem with Hearthstone is that it tends to become stale because you can only do things on your turn. So basically, you do your turn, you make your actions, and then you sit there and wait for your opponent to do their turn, and you have no interaction, right? So whatever they do on their turn happens no matter what. So Magic the Gathering has the plus on its side that you can interact with your opponent on anybody's turn, right? So you always feel like you're in the game. And I think that's the major difference.
Gwent isn't even totally out yet, is it?
I have no idea, man.
There's some different versions of Gwent. I know there's like the actual Gwent, which is like you playing against other people, and then they released like a single player campaign type thing, like centered around Gwent, that was called Thronebreaker or something like that. I think.
I don't
heard
think
that was
they've
pretty
ever gone full release though, have they?
No,
I'm not sure.
Turning the conversation.
Also, by the way, Artifact, I just looked it up out of total curiosity. Its peak within the last 30 days of concurrent players was 276.
Yikes.
Whoa, even less.
Yeah, not great.
276. Jesus Christ, that's bad.
Peak in the last 30 days.
So
that's like not enough to fill some movie theaters. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, to the point I made earlier, Elder Scrolls Legends getting ported and it possibly helping it. Magic the Gathering Arena is only on PC right now. So it would be in Elder Scrolls Legends' benefit to go to these other platforms. Hearthstone isn't on Switch. Magic the Gathering Arena isn't on Switch.
Switch seems like it should have more card games.
Yeah, and it doesn't. So we've seen a partnership with other companies than Nintendo. I don't know. And we've seen obviously Bethesda port games. And we've seen that they kind of lose quality, obviously, due to the Switch's power. Elder Scrolls Legends wouldn't lose much going to the Switch, right? It just, is it financially viable for them to do it? Who knows? We'll see. It is a cool card game. I've talked about this before we move on. One of the biggest things for me with card games is I want to be invested in the lore of the cards, right? Because card games are very similar in a lot of ways. With Hearthstone, I'm not a huge Blizzard guy, so it didn't really hook me that way. Elder Scrolls Legends, the reason I wanted to try in the first place is because I love the Elder Scrolls universe, right? So I think there's a way for them to make it work. It's just they need to find a hook for themselves, and maybe being the first card game on Switch could be that for people, because there isn't a real card game on there. Hearthstone isn't. Magic the Gathering Arena isn't. We'll see. Elder Scrolls Online. So the Elsewhere expansion is going to be releasing June 4th, so it's actually right before their E3 press conference. We're going to get more info about it. They're probably going to talk about how well Elder Scrolls Online is doing, yada, yada, yada. The cool thing with Elsewhere is that it's introducing dragons for the first time, and it's introducing a necromancer class. Elder Scrolls Online, I think people were fearful that because it was successful, it delayed Elder Scrolls 6. I don't think it's ever really delayed it. I think they've had Elder Scrolls 6 in pre-production for a while. I want to know from you guys, because I've never been a MMO guy. I'm not that type of person. I tried Elder Scrolls Online. It definitely had a lot of those staples of MMO games, and the grinding, and it just never hooked me. Is there any way you guys would want to try Elder Scrolls Online? Does this new expansion interest you at all?
Yeah, actually, I own the game. Actually,
oh wow,
I do too.
I've only
I
ever
own it on
played
Xbox.
Yeah, I've only ever played a couple hours though. It's been something I really have been wanting to get into for like 2 years now since I've owned it. But just haven't, like, I don't know. It just I never felt motivated enough to really dive in fully. I've never given it, a full chance, but I've wanted to. And so they might play into my predictions later about a better way for me to do that.
Oh, nice.
Hopefully.
It's also, the base game is on Gamecast too, so yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's just one of those games. Like, Elder Scrolls Online is a segment of the Bethesda conference every year where I'm like, good for you. Doesn't matter to me. You know what I mean? I'm like, great to hear it. I have no interest at all.
Yeah.
Which
it
is funny because I love
well
Elder
enough.
Scrolls, but yeah, it's doing really well. The studio that works on it, they were founded in 2014. I can't remember the actual name of the studio. It's the only thing they work on.
ZeniMax Online Entertainment,
yes, there you go,
or something like that.
Yep, there you go, Logan. Yeah, it's cool. Doesn't do anything for me. Logan, Jordan, you guys have anything to say about Elder Scrolls Online?
Same thing. Like, I bought it. I bought the version that came with Morrowind. I was like, oh, this seems pretty cool. And then I booted it up, and I started it playing for like 15 minutes, and then I was like, man, this is an MMO. I forgot about that, and then I turned it off because I didn't want to play it at the moment, and then I've never played it ever again. So yeah.
Jordan?
Yeah, I have not a tough time, but I have I'm not even always up on the single player games that I want to play, feeling like I'm spending enough time with them. And so no, there's absolutely no way I'm going to be jumping into an MMO.
Yeah. The next game is actually one of the titles I'm really anticipating, but I guess because it's a smaller, I assume just because of the price point it's smaller, it doesn't come into my forefront of my mind when I think about my most anticipated games like Breakpoint or Jedi Fallen Order. Wolfenstein Youngblood. So this is the follow-up. Comes out July 26th, which is sooner than I remembered. Coming out at a $30 price point. Obviously it features the daughters of
it's
DJ
like a standalone
Blazkowicz.
expansion, right?
Exactly, yeah. As Machine Games done is with both of their Wolfenstein entries. There was New Order, then Old Blood, which was the expansion, right. And then New Colossus, and now Youngblood. One of the coolest quotes I've heard is that it feels different than the Machine Games mainline entries. So there's a lot of different gameplay mechanics that they're trying out for the first time. Obviously, You control I don't remember if they're twins. I know they're sisters, but I couldn't remember if they were actually twins or not.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think they are.
I just love Machine Games. Like, their 2 Wolfenstein entries, including the expansion, are some of my favorite games of this generation. I think they're very solid in their development. And if you're giving me a $30 expansion with BJ's daughters, I'm in. I can't wait to play this game. Maybe, do you have any insight on this, Logan? Have you guys talked or had hands-on previews with this game at all?
We haven't yet. No, I think we aren't seeing Bethesda at the moment. Like, I'm sure we will, but I don't know what we're seeing at the show from them. I assume it'll probably be this. I assume that'll probably be one of the first times they show this because it's coming out in July, right?
July 26th. Yeah, it's pretty close.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We haven't seen it yet. No, I think it looks super cool though. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think all the Wolfenstein games that have come out this generation are like some of my favorite, and to now dive into that with other people who I know who love those games sounds really fun. And the structure, they've been talking about the structure of the game a little bit more lately, and it sounds totally different than anything I was really expecting. Like they said, it's more open ended and it's not linear. Like there are missions and things like that you can do, but you can like choose the order that you do them in, and then the layout of the levels are more similar to like Dishonored or something really weird like that.
Cool.
So
that was the part that got me excited.
Well, Arcane is helping with this, aren't they?
Awesome.
Sorry,
yeah, Arcane's helping with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds really cool though. It's $30 and it's out in like 8 weeks or something like that. So
Jordan, we often talk about how games really don't take advantage of that late July, early August, right, time frame. Like nobody really releases games there. This is coming out late July, so it's cool to see, right, that Bethesda is taking advantage of that time slot in the calendar.
Absolutely. People have got to wake up to the just wide open summer months that could be mined for gold. And on top of that, I was also going to say, Jared, that this is an example of what I've talked about of going there. You know, they're really doing it, and they really do it with the whole Wolfenstein series reboot that they've done, where they're not afraid to get outlandish or far out with some of the things that are going on when it comes to like the alternate history Nazi stuff, things like that. So this is another example of them not being afraid to kind of step outside the lines and see what they can do.
Speaking of like going there, Doom Eternal, right? We got the reveal last year. They showed off that it was going back to Earth, obviously, and then I believe at QuakeCon we saw a little bit more of the game. That's when they had their presentation where they showed like the religious capital area. I don't even remember what it was called. You know, like it was more white than reds in terms of the color template for it. The original, well, not the original, but the Doom 2016, the reboot, was fantastic. I think Dom, me and you like couldn't stop talking about that game. What do you guys expect? So it's set for a 2019 release, which means likely fall, right? The original Doom, I'll say it again, Doom 2016 came out in, I believe, March or May of 2016. It was like March, April, May, somewhere in there. May,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if this game gets pushed to spring 2020. I wouldn't want that, obviously. I want to play this as soon as possible. I just have a couple of questions for you guys. Like, do you think it will hit 2019 or will it get pushed? And, this game, the reason it didn't hit the highs of critical reception was because the multiplayer mode pulled it down pretty extensively. What do you guys think in terms of them implementing another multiplayer mode? I mean, that's key to, like, the Doom franchise. How do you guys feel about both of those questions in general? The release date and the addition or subtraction of multiplayer?
I have release date thoughts, but I'll save that for my predictions when we get there.
A little bit of a tease.
Multiplayer, I think, didn't they announce that they were doing it in-house this time? Because didn't they outsource it last time, and the multiplayer was one development studio doing like solely multiplayer, and the single player was
id
or something
outsourced?
like that?
I'm going to look up real quick to see who it was.
I think they said that they're taking a multiplayer in-house this time at id, which to me means like maybe it'll be good. Again, like the problem with multiplayer shooters nowadays is that like it's such a hard market to break into. Like anytime something does come along and break into that market, like Apex Legends, like that's an anomaly more than like it is the norm, I think. And I just don't think that. Like I'm gonna guess like Quake Champions, for instance, here, which I know we're gonna talk about in a second. Like that is a totally designed multiplayer experience, top to bottom, that would probably serve that audience more than anything, and that couldn't even find an audience.
It was. Sorry to interrupt you. It was Bethesda Game Studios Austin, who was previously the, what were they previously called?
They're the Brink people, right?
They were previously Escalation
Arcane
Studios. They were working on the Hero multiplayer game that got canceled. Battle Cry. Yeah, that sounds about right. The fact that it's in-house makes me more excited for it, Logan, because I think id 2 was like, hey, this was like the worst part of our game, and we didn't handle it right. So it's like maybe if we handle it, it'll come together in a better package.
Yeah.
Funny enough, one of the guests we've had previously, Max, who's a friend of all of us, he's notorious for saying the reboot was too long, which I always find funny. I really loved Doom 2016. I think it's not often talked about as one of like the best games of this generation. I know we just previously talked about the Wolfenstein games, but it just shows like shooters from Bethesda in this generation have been excellent. And you said you're going to talk about the release date for your prediction. It's one of those games that can go either way, so it's going to be interesting to see what you think in terms of where it's going to land. Speaking of Quake Champions, Logan, you brought that up. This has always been a weird game to me because this isn't a mainline Quake game, and we'll talk about Quake in general later on in the podcast. But so recently, doing the research for the show, they revamped the champion progression. So obviously with these multiplayer-only games, they have a lot of issues that they have to work through with the community. Apparently the progression with the champions wasn't great, so they revamped that. They added a battle pass, like most multiplayer games add now, in December of 2018. and the last patch was March 29th, so it's been a couple of months since they've patched the game. This could go one of two ways. It could go the Elder Scrolls Legends way, where they go quiet on it, right, Logan? Or it could be that they haven't patched or made a major announcement because they're waiting for E3. What do you guys think that is? Because Quake Champions has been kind of quiet. This game will probably never come to console because it's so focused on the mouse and keyboard play. I just want to know from you guys, like, is Quake Champions, like, disappearing? Are we going to see a brand new expansion? Well, what's the future of it? Because it just seems like no one talks about it at all.
I think that they can kind of hurt themselves not being on console, as much as it is a PC franchise. You just cut out a lot of possible buyers there, and maybe you could, I don't know, do some back end stuff where only PC players play each other or whatever. But who knows?
What were you gonna say, Logan?
I think this game's dead.
Yeah.
Like, to keep it very bluntly, like, I would be out of everything here. Like, I'd be surprised. I think it's more likely that we hear about, like, Elder Scrolls Legends or something than we do about this. I think Quake Champions is done.
To be honest
this
with you,
game
sorry to interrupt you. To be honest with you,
it just never caught on.
I'm surprised we've seen it the last couple of E3s. I'm like, oh, they're showing this? Like, it's not dead yet?
Yeah.
It's...
Yeah, like, I think it was last year, soon after E3, or, like, right around E3, they were like, it's finally out, because it was in early access or beta up until that point, and then they, like, formally launched it, and then that was just kind of, like, kaput, and then they haven't really said a word about it since then. So, yeah, I think this game's dead.
Let's go back to a franchise that's currently doing very well, Wolfenstein. Last year they announced Wolfenstein Cyberpilot, which is a VR game. Hasn't launched yet. It's set to launch actually the same day as Youngblood. So they're going to have two Wolfenstein games come out on the same day, which is really cool. Traditional game experience and a VR experience. It's coming to Vive, Oculus Rift, and PSVR. Obviously, we're not going to see it on PSVR because Sony's not doing a show this year. They wouldn't have it at their show because they're not doing one. I guess there's not much to say here. It's just another commitment by Bethesda to the VR space. We had Skyrim VR, we had Fallout VR, now we have Wolfenstein VR. I'm interested to see. I couldn't find a price point. Maybe I just missed it, but it's a VR game, so we don't know the scope necessarily. But it'd be cool if, like, you're a PlayStation person, right, who owns a PSVR, for $60 to be able to get Youngblood and Cyberpilot. You get like two Wolfenstein experiences on the same day. That'd be pretty dope. That being said, I don't know the Cyberpilot price, but if it is $30, that'd be a great bundle for people who have VR to pick up both of them. So, I don't know if you guys have anything to say.
Releasing that
Also,
date.
they're like connected story-wise, right?
I haven't looked into Cyberpilot's story, to be completely honest with you. I have no clue.
Because
It is attached,
both, like, they're like, kind of like a cyberpunk dystopian version of Wolfenstein's alternate future.
Well, Youngblood for sure is. I just don't know where I haven't looked into Cyberpilot's story. I don't know where it takes place necessarily. I don't know if anybody's going to chime in there and be like, "Oh, I know."
I'm pretty sure that's the case if I remember the trailers.
So,
correct.
looking it up here, it does take place 20 years after, so it takes place concurrently with Youngblood. You're correct, Jordan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You take control of a variety of different Nazi robots, turning them against their creators. That sounds pretty cool. Yeah, interesting. It's rail-free, which is good. It's not on rails. That's usually a problem with VR titles, that they end up being on rail shooters, and it's not really fun or engaging. Speaking of something that a lot of people felt wasn't fun and engaging, Fallout 76. Obviously, we know the launch of Fallout 76. We know all the issues it had. We know all the critical reception it had. Terrible launch. So it's had a lot of major updates since launch. It hasn't really seen the redemption arc that we've seen with the likes of No Man's Sky and other titles, but it has progressively gotten better. I remember last year, or I think this year, in December or in early January, I remember, Dom, that your prediction was that Fallout 76 would have this great redemption arc, right? And it would be in a great place. I wouldn't necessarily say Fallout 76 is in a great place, but it is for sure in a better place than launch. Their roadmap, they're going to have another expansion coming out in summer 2019 and fall 2019, those being the Nuclear Winter expansion and Wastelanders expansion. What do you guys think of Fallout 76 in terms of it showing at this year's show? Like, with the backlash, with the launch, with the updates since. I just want to hear from you guys your thoughts in general.
I mean, they're gonna bring it up. I mean, they're obviously gonna talk about the game and show a lot, like what they're doing and some of the new updates. But I don't know that they'll be self-aware enough to mention specifically like something along the lines of, we know we've had some problems. I don't think they'll say anything like that. I think they'll kind of carefully word it in the ways of, we've been working extremely hard to make improvements and updates to the game, kind of speak. I don't think they'll like literally call out.
You don't think they'll have any self-reproach to it?
No, I don't think so.
Well, here's an important factor
I don't like
in that, Jared. Is it a fan event, or is it like an actual E3 thing that you need a pass to E3 for? Is it like EA Play, or is it like,
Well, that's the tough thing, is because they have obviously journalists and stuff there, but they do tend to fill up their space with huge Bethesda fans, So it's like...
Yeah, I feel like Bethesda conferences are more fan-based. Because like you were talking about them waiting for applause and stuff. They were really digging into the whole, like, people
hamming it up
for stuff that they're into. Yeah, so with that being said, that's going to make it more difficult for them to discuss the Fallout 76 situation as opposed to them just talking to straight-up press people for the most part.
Yeah. I do think there needs to be some level of self-reproach. Obviously, they're not going to come out and say, oh, we failed at launch. They're not going to be that direct. But I do think... I hope Todd Howard and Pete Hines come out and make a statement about it, even if in a joking fashion, because they hammed it up so much last year, right? And it was so much about, clapping at any announcement or anything. They couldn't get through a sentence without an applause. And since then, I think this E3 will really identify how Bethesda feels about the feedback. I think if they do have a little bit of self-reproach and they do talk about it to some extent, that it didn't go off the way they wanted and they're working to fix it, and they understand they didn't meet fans' expectations, I think there's a way to communicate that in an effective way that doesn't necessarily tear down your own company, but also tells fans like, hey, we understand we didn't do this right, Logan, what do you have to say about Fallout 76?
I mean, this kind of was going to fall into my predictions just a little bit. But yeah, they have to basically own up to all of this. They have to be very blunt, acknowledge that they shipped a turd, say sorry, and I don't know, and that's weird. And Bethesda's been very blunt in the past. They're a very forthcoming publisher, which is why I like them kind of in the first place. Which makes the fact that they shipped Fallout 76 in the state that it was in even more frustrating, because that game was totally not ready to go out the door, and they shoved it out the door, and it was really bad.
Man, and I hate when people are like, yeah, but all their games come out like that. It's like, yeah, Skyrim releases with like bugs and stuff, but like Fallout 76 was in a completely different shape.
Fallout 76's problem is that it's just like hollow. It's like hardly a game. Like, it is just like, I don't know, like, hey, we're not even going to put NPCs in the game for you to interact with because we only want you to interact with other characters. No, that's bullcrap. It's because it cuts back on the actual work that probably needs to be done in order to put said game out, I think.
Yeah.
Well, there are, like, aren't there NPCs, but they're all robots? There's no human NPCs that they would have had to animate faces for and all that?
They're like the Cybertron bots
like
and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's, like, even more obvious that they did it for laziness.
Yeah, it just seemed very rushed, and like they were just trying to cash in on the Fallout name more than anything. Do
you think
they
this
gotta
is
own up to that?
Sorry to interrupt you, Logan. Do you think this is tied to like Starfield is obviously in development, and that's going to be a big title, so it has a long development cycle. Elder Scrolls 6 has a long development cycle. Maybe from a publishing standpoint, it was the cash in. I agree with you guys on that. And maybe it's like, what's the thing that can have the highest return on money but the lowest effort in the time between our next big release, because we have to wait so long for that release, And it bit them in the ass, essentially.
I think part of it was that they genuinely did want to dip their toe into the waters of a multiplayer game, because that's something Bethesda Game Studios has never done before. So I think there was like legitimate interest from them to create something like that. And I don't know if the scope of the project just totally was hauled back like over time once they realized how big it would need to be to do something like that properly, and they didn't have that time because obviously, like you said, they're working on other things. They're working on Starfield and they're working on Elder Scrolls. And not their A team didn't work on this game either. Wasn't it Bethesda Game Studios Austin or Dallas who worked on it?
It was Austin,
primarily?
which to your point, that means they're 2 for 2 for kind of being attached with the worst of the franchises. So like, they worked on the Doom multiplayer. It was the worst part about that game. They were
and they couldn't get Battlecry off the ground before that.
So that speaks to that too, right? It's like, oh man.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of weird things surrounding this game still, and I think that's going to be... Honestly, coming into this show, you kind of said this a second ago, but there's not a whole lot we really know or expect coming into this one. Like, I didn't even know if they would have a press conference this year, to be completely honest with you, because they've got Doom coming up, and I really don't really know what else is coming up in the near future. And I'm sure they've got some tricks up their sleeve, and they'll show us that stuff next month. But yeah, without anything else really standing out in the forefront of people's minds, like, I want to see this or I want to see this, I think the main thing people are wanting to see going into this show is how are they going to approach Fallout 76 and, pun intended, I guess, the fallout of what happened after they released that game. Yeah. Because that is like the big thing that has followed Bethesda as a publisher for the last 6-7 months now. So
let's hop over to something that was actually a funny part of the show, which was the Skyrim A Very Special Edition, which was the Amazon Echo Skyrim commercial, if you guys remember it. It featured Michael Keegan Key, right?
Keegan
Michael
Key.
Almost. Keegan Michael Key.
He's one of those 3-word names that like I always mess up the order of them. It was him and his wife, and obviously he was playing the game, and it was really funny. He was poking fun at, Skyrim coming to every platform. And then after the show, we found out it was a real thing. It was actually on your Amazon Echo, and you can play Skyrim, which is really cool. The fact that they made a joke about themselves and it was actually a product was really neat. They even featured the funny joke of the like refrigerator Skyrim with the ice cubes and everything. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Elder Scrolls Blades was their big mobile game announcement last year. It's currently in beta. From all of the reviews I've read, and obviously Dom talked about he didn't really enjoy it at all. From all of the reviews I read during the research on this, it seemed like the visuals and combat were pretty solid, but it was plagued by the normal mobile game issues, which were repetitive and lackluster experiences. And
I mean, they made a mobile game and then added in Elder Scrolls stuff, right? They didn't make an Elder Scrolls game and then make it a mobile game, so that's how I ultimately felt.
Yeah. Seems like the reviews are pretty like middling and down on it. It's currently in beta, so obviously there's room for improvement. It isn't the full release. It's funny because this is directly opposite of Fallout Shelter. When that came out, everyone loved it and they couldn't stop playing it, and that had microtransactions and it had the lunch pails. So just can't catch a break with Elder Scrolls Blades and Fallout 76. Hopefully Blades turns around. We'll see. I'm interested to play it when it's in a better state, but currently, is it still only available on iOS?
Yeah, and I think it's actually early access technically too.
It's in beta.
It's out for everybody now. I know they just launched it for everybody like last week. I think it's still technically quote unquote early access or whatever the heck, but it's you don't need a Bethesda account or whatever like was keeping you from playing it before. You didn't need to be like one of the special chosen ones or whatever to play
the chosen one. Yeah. To your point earlier, Logan, you were saying you weren't sure if they're going to have a show this year because we didn't know if there was anything worth showing, right? They came and announced that Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 won't be at the show. Their two biggest titles, we all assume that they're both next gen. We got the logo last year for Starfield. We got the logo last year for Elder Scrolls 6. I would arguably say Elder Scrolls 6 showed more because it showed some of the terrain we'd assume is going to be in Elder Scrolls 6, whereas Starfield was just like a planet and a satellite, right? It was like a
it was like a tone satellite piece.
Yeah.
Or something like that, yeah.
We kind of know more about Elder Scrolls just because it has previous titles, whereas Starfield, we don't know what to expect. I don't know if there's much to say here. If you guys have anything you want to say about Starfield or Elder Scrolls 6, they're confirmed no-shows. I mean, some people want to say, like, oh, they're just saying that so they surprise us. I don't know if that's the case. Those games seem like they're so far away that you would kind of hurt yourself. I think last year they just talked about them because they're like, stop asking us, especially with Elder Scrolls 6. Like, we are making it, just stop asking us about it. What are your guys' thoughts on them in general, since they're assumably not going to be there?
Defer to predictions.
Okay.
Well, I do think that having a little teaser trailer in the first place is the opposite of it. It was them saying stop asking us, but it had the opposite effect, where now they're just going to get asked more. Now it's just, now you've actually got people legitimately excited about an official product of yours.
Especially with the failure of Fallout 76, right? They're like, when are we going to get our real Bethesda game, essentially?
Yeah.
Quote unquote. So.
That's why they did it. It was mainly to just protect themselves, because they knew if they just revealed Fallout 76 and they're like, hey, we're doing this multiplayer game now, and we're going to continue supporting it after launch, and we're going to actively blah, 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 blah. All the things you say when you make a game as a service title like that. Everybody would have gotten way up in arms. Why are they making this? Why don't they make a real new Fallout game? Or why don't they make Elder Scrolls 6? Or where's Starfield? That thing was trademarked forever ago. Blah,
where's
blah,
Brink
blah,
2?
blah, blah.
Yeah.
It was basically just a way for them to be like, hey, we're making Fallout 76 and we're trying something new and we're making a multiplayer game. And also, yeah, we're making this stuff too. So you don't even need to bother asking us about it, because, yeah, it's real.
Yeah. I want to see at least one of them, but I'm setting my expectations real low and I'm believing them fully. And I'm like, neither of them are going to show. I'm just setting that in my mind, so if one does show, I'm excited about it. We'll see. Every year Bethesda has a theme, right, to their shows. Last year was like the theme park. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? Was it the theme park, or was that 2 years ago?
Theme park was 2 years ago. Bethesda
ago.
Land was 2 years ago. Last year was, I don't know.
I don't remember what it was. Anyways, this year's theme is Be Together. One thing I didn't mention at the top is that for the last couple of years, they've started with these highlights of their company culture, right, with all of their different employees and their kids, and talking about how great it is to work at Bethesda. We'll likely see another one. The Be Together thing, obviously, is just an overall theme, but, with Fallout 76 being multiplayer, there is a possibility that could be an emphasis on multiplayer. Maybe that's what the big thing for Doom Eternal is, that they show us how good the multiplayer is now that they're doing it in-house. Who knows? But I guess we'll get to some of these lingering questions and speculation for Bethesda in general. Arcane Studios, right? So they made most recently the Prey reboot. Last year we got that Moon Crash DLC and that like Groundhog's Day mode, where like you'd play the same situation over and over again. The initial game released in May of 2017, so 2 years ago. And from what I've seen with their cadence of releases, they tend to work at 2 games simultaneously. So Arcane also released, help me out here, the spin-off,
Dishonored.
What was it called? Dishonored Death of the Outsider? That sounds right.
Well, those are 2 different studios completely.
But it is Arcane overall.
Europe and Arcane Austin are different studios.
Yeah. But they tend not to separate themselves when they like promote their games. They don't like, this is like Arcane Studios Europe. So what I'm saying is, in general, as a studio, they work on 2 games simultaneously. I want to know from you guys, because they did have Prey come out in 2017 and then the DLC last year, is there a chance that we get a tease at the Prey sequel? Do we get a tease at something else entirely with Arcane? What's most likely?
That's prediction territory for me personally.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I was saying, they have their European team. That's the Prey team. And then, correct? And then Austin is Dishonored?
I think that's how it worked out.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
So I would say that you're going to see an Arcane Austin game before you're going to see a Prey 2 from Arcane Europe.
Do you think that's new IP? Do you think that's a sequel?
That'll be new IP because they've said they're getting away from Dishonored, right?
Yeah, they said we probably won't see it for a good while. Dishonored is one of those franchises that, like, I don't know if it's, I teeter on, is it underappreciated or is it just like a solid good game, Is it worthy of, like, because it didn't sell very well?
Stealth games in first person is your problem there.
Yeah.
It's like the last of a dying genre, kind of.
I think it's appreciated. I mean, it won a bunch of Game of the Year awards, the first game, and it was really highly acclaimed. But then the subsequent games,
from like a sales standpoint.
From a sales standpoint, not from a critical standpoint, Don.
What is the name of the stupid genre that it is in?
Immersive sim.
Immersive sim. Thank you. Yeah, the immersive sim genre is just like there's very few games in that genre anymore, like the Deus Exes and the System Shocks and things like that like used to kind of fill out that genre like aren't really a thing anymore, and this is kind of one. This and Prey was that as well. Like they're really some of the only ones around. And
so I'm biased because you guys know I don't like don't like first person games nearly as much as third. Do you guys want to play a stealth game in first person? Do you guys want those immersive sim type things?
Yeah, I loved all the Dishonored games, all three of them.
Stealth in first person doesn't bother you?
No, it's a little more difficult, but I still enjoyed that part of it. So,
I'm weird. I really liked Prey. I didn't like Dishonored that much though. I played 1 and 2.
Okay.
I like it's weird where I fall on Dishonored because I acknowledge that they are like critically like incredible games, but I just don't really care for them that much. I don't know. I think it's the setting or something about that world that I just like don't.
It's very unique.
Yeah, it's a strange
very
world.
Unique. People talk about, a lot of times in video games, people talk about staleness, and I think that Dishonored is one of the truly unique franchises.
Yeah,
I don't like the setting either. I think that's why I never like dove in. It's just like it doesn't interest me,
Yeah. The faces are very ugly, and that might sound like, well, who the fuck cares? But it's partially like character design, partially art style, and there's some of that mixed in. But it looks, when you're like interacting with other characters, it looks very ugly. Now the environments with the painterly style that is not very beneficial to faces. It is, I would say, for environments and looks great. But the character models and faces are quite lacking, and I think that as minuscule as that might sound, it's a bigger part of the game that you're interacting with than you might realize, and so I think that might throw a lot of people off.
To your point, though, because it is so original, that gets me excited for the opportunity of Arcane presenting a new IP. Like how different or original will that look, and maybe that will catch
Logan
and I.
Really, that's what Prey 2017, I think, is, because it has nothing to do with
the spiritual Native American stuff,
which is, both of them are highly original. So, I think that, Prey and Dishonored are two of the most unique franchises we have, and it's both coming out of Arcane, so that's really cool.
Next up, Tango Gameworks. So we got Evil Within in 2014. We got Evil Within 2 in 2017. The franchise has sold like decently. It hasn't sold like incredibly well. If they were meeting that cadence, that means that we would get Evil Within 3 in 2020. Unfortunately, I looked at the calendar and Friday the 13th doesn't fall in October, so that sucks. Nice. I was looking at that to see if there was a possibility there. The cool thing with Evil Within is like it's a very true horror series. We had Resident Evil kind of ditch a lot of the horror, and that's where the sales went up, but the actual love for the franchise went down, and we saw a return with Resident Evil 7 and the remake this year. And Evil Within has been a true horror franchise. And though it is a niche genre, I do think that like there is a place for Evil Within 3. From what I haven't played the games, but from what people have said, they did leave it open at the end of 2 for the next game. And I would love for them to be able to finish off the Evil Within trilogy. His name always escapes me. The guy who was one of the founding creators of Resident Evil works on Evil Within 2. He's the director. Can't remember his name.
Mikami?
There you go. Yeah. I would love for them to just be able to finish this trilogy. Do you think Evil Within is one of those games where they would show off Evil Within 3 this year, then next E3 give us the date? Or do you think we'd likely just see it next year with the date the same year?
Let's get into predictions. That's not really their style.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not their style, especially after the second one when they announced it in June and it was out in October, like 3 or 4 months later. Yeah.
Yeah, certain games they would announce more than 6 months beforehand, obviously like Starfield, but I think Evil Within fits into that category of announcement and comes out this year.
I guess the only argument to that would be filling out their show with the lack of Starfield and Elder Scrolls, right? But we don't know if there's another like game we don't know about that they're going to be showing. So I could see it making it in a non-traditional sense for them because they want another game to show in place of the lack of other titles they have. Who knows? We'll see. But are we all in agreement that Evil Within 3 is happening? We just don't know when it's going to be shown?
Yes.
I'm agreeing that it's quite possible and even likely, but I could see them, shifting gears
to something else, yeah. it'd be really interesting if they did a different like horror franchise for next gen, right? Like Tango Gameworks finishes the Evil Within trilogy, and then come next gen they introduce something else, or maybe a spin-off franchise or something. I hope Tango Gameworks sticks to horror. Maybe not a completely horror game, because maybe it just doesn't sell well and they need to, try something else. But I hope they keep those roots, and we'll see what happens. We've mentioned the studio a couple of times, unfortunately. Bethesda Game Studios Dallas, which is previously Escalation Studios, the Battlecry studio. They were acquired in 2017. They helped with the development of Doom's multiplayer. They helped with Rage, Team Fortress 2, Disney Infinity. Their last project they were actually involved in was 2016 for the most part, because they developed the they helped with Fallout 76, but they also helped with Doom 2016. Do you guys think that they're just stuck on Fallout 76 now, and BGS is working on the two big titles, and Bethesda Game Studios Dallas is the ones that are focusing on the updates and everything for Fallout 76?
That sounds
Yeah, I don't
reasonable.
think yeah, they will be attached to that for a while. I think Bethesda feels, even though they dropped the ball with it, and I have no doubt that they're probably really not making much money from Fallout 76 at the moment. I feel like they're in a weird spot with that, where I don't think they can just up and drop it and be like, we're done supporting the game, done supporting this $60 game that you guys put out, or that we put out last year, and sorry everybody, it was a flop. I feel like they probably feel internally like they are obligated to support it for a year or two.
But to that point,
see where it's at, and then
they're going to give that to like this studio, right? They're not going to focus on it themselves.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And this studio will be the one that is working on it. Todd Howard is probably, I don't know, figuring out the Dark Brotherhood quest line in Elder Scrolls 6 right now or something. I don't know what the heck he does.
They're like, hey, you guys just handle this. And the funny thing is, this is likely the plan all along, right? For Dallas to handle the post-launch for Fallout 76. But it made Bethesda Game Studios proper probably even more less interested in paying attention to it, to focus on the other games, right? This is probably the plan all along. It's just like, we're definitely not going to be really dipping our hands in. It's all you guys. And
yeah, I mean, I think that's why they have so many projects in the pipeline too, because they've got 4 studios now worldwide. They've got one in Canada, they've got the main one in Maryland, and then they've got Austin and Dallas.
Yep.
So yeah, they've got a lot of studios now. I assume this one is going to be attached to Fallout 76 for a while. And then between the 3 others, like the 3 huge studios that they've got going, you assume that Starfield's the main thing they're working on, and then other sects are probably working on.
With Dallas, 6. With Battlecry and then Doom's multiplayer, they haven't had a project that they've stayed on for a long amount of time. So maybe this is in the best interest for them, so they can get the experience of trying to salvage a game that launched so poorly, right? And learning about communication with the community and fixing things. It might be in the best interest for them in the long run. So this is something we don't really talk about with Bethesda, and it's new acquisitions. We can throw third-party published games too into this. So they partner with a developer they don't necessarily own. I just want to know, is it likely that we could see an acquisition of a studio or something like that, or even a partnership with a developer and they publish that game? Because we've talked about, if they're not going to have Starfield, they're not going to have Elder Scrolls, what are they going to be showing? What's the point of the show outside of a couple of titles? Do you think it's likely that we see Bethesda publish a game from a developer we know?
I would say that is more likely than publishing something of someone else's is more likely than seeing them acquire anyone, because I think at this point they have a pretty robust line of studios, so I don't necessarily know that they're looking to add.
Yeah, I got a prediction on this one too.
Okay.
I don't know who's really available that they could grab. Like, that's one of the things. Unless it was like, there's no big free agent players that I can think of out there right now. I mean, then again, Microsoft's grabbed within the past year wasn't necessarily a free agent or whatever. Yeah, Bungie.
Yeah, but to that point,
Yeah,
I think
I guess.
Bethesda is one of the major publishers that doesn't have like some indie size developers, right? Some mid-level to low-level. So we could see maybe these developers of, and I'm not saying these specific games, but like Stardew Valley or like Undertale, like that level of developer that they bring in, so they do have these smaller titles in their conferences and in their portfolio.
I got one for you. I got one.
What is it?
CD Projekt Red.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, right.
How much would
Because
people
now-
hate Bethesda if they bought CD Projekt
Listen,
Red?
I
I'm
don't
not
think they
necessarily
could
talking
afford
about
them.
acquisition here.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily talking about acquisition, but publishing. I could totally see them helping out publishing with
Warner Bros. already
Cyberpunk.
Warner Bros.
Yeah,
has
like-
already got that contract locked down. Warner
Yeah, I
Bros.
guess
is
that's
publishing
true.
it here in the U.S. and then over in Europe, it's being published by I can't remember. Maybe just CD Projekt
By
themselves.
Bethesda. No, but
Yeah.
I did remember, them partnering with Warner Brothers for Witcher. So I thought, maybe, they are at least working outside publishers. So yeah, they're probably not going to go with Bethesda for Europe, but something like that you could see happening. Maybe not with CD Projekt, but
One of my dream, actually, that we're going to talk about later in predictions, my dream prediction is a
Other than-
partnership.
John Bernthal coming out on Bethesda's stage.
Jesus.
Yeah, a major dream. So we're going to get into some questions. I'm going to ask you guys specifically, and then if anybody else wants to jump in on that question after the fact, you're welcome to do so, but they're going to be focused mainly on individual questions. Dom. So we've seen a couple of mobile games from Bethesda. We saw, obviously, Elder Scrolls Blades. We saw Fallout Shelter. What do you think the chances are that we see another mobile game this year? Fallout Shelter sequel or expansion or follow-up? Another idea I had was like a Dishonored Go type game. So it takes the IP and uses it in an interesting way on mobile. What's the likelihood you think of that, another mobile game announcement?
0%. They're going to focus on Blades, right? But I will say not this year. Maybe probably by next year. I mean, what's the one place we haven't seen Skyrim ported to yet? And just, I'm surprised it's taken this long, but I think that will happen eventually. I mean, Skyrim on phones and iPads. That's got to
There's
be
an argument to
happening,
me
right?
they got it working on Switch, right? And yeah.
So,
We'll see.
I don't
So-
think this year though. So.
Yeah, not this year.
Wouldn't that cannibalize Blades though? I mean,
Yeah,
not
that's why I
that
think
not
it's-
that there's a massive Blades audience, but like
Yeah, that's why I think it's got
Do
to
you think
wait.
they would? But don't you think they'd release Skyrim as like a premium buy it title instead of free to play?
yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably
For sure.
$30 or something stupid. Yeah.
Even though it's been out for holy crap,
for
it game's
a
Yeah.
mobile
been out
game,
for
Jesus
8 years.
Christ. Yeah. So earlier, Logan, we were talking about Quake Champions and how it's likely dead. Obviously, Quake Champions isn't a mainline title, right? It doesn't have like a single player campaign or anything. What do you think the chances are of us seeing a Quake reboot, right? We've seen Wolfenstein rebooted, and it's been really well received. We've seen Doom rebooted. Quake is its other big shooter IP, and Champions doesn't seem to be doing very well. What do you think the chances are that we see a Quake reboot tease at the very least?
Not. I don't know. It's possible. I don't know. I don't know how they view that property internally. It's still an important property for them in the grand scheme of things. I don't think they would necessarily. I don't know. Quake is a weird one. Quake is a very, very weird one. They have an entire convention named around that game, but it's something, obviously, Quake Champions, but that flopped, and then other than that, like, we haven't seen anything from that franchise in so long. I think somebody could come along and take the reins up from that. I feel like it would be id, though, to do that, and they're busy with Doom at the moment, so I don't know if we would see or hear anything. They're the only studio I would trust to do anything with Quake, really, as well. A proper Quake and not Quake Champions or whatever.
To your point, I think that Quake reboot would go over pretty well at E3, but it'd probably be one of those announcements that you could just save for QuakeCon, right? And because that's the audience. Who knows? I just think a reboot is possible. I just don't know when we're going to see it. It could be, we see the reveal between Doom games, like you said, so it can work on it. Who knows? Jordan, we saw the Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle partnership with Ubisoft work out really well. We've seen Bethesda's commitment to porting games over to the Switch. What do you think the likelihood is that we see a Nintendo partnership with Bethesda in the realm of Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle?
That's relatively unlikely, I would say. If nothing else, look at how much Nintendo likes their games to be polished, and look at how Bethesda doesn't. That's not a thing of Bethesda, apparently, polish. So I don't see that happening, even if just for that logistical reason.
You're telling me we're not going to get a sequel to that hideous Link outfit in Skyrim that we got? Remember when it was announced to be ported and it was like
Actually,
really
that's
gross?
true. Now that you mentioned that, I didn't even think about that. Was dumb, man. But wow. Now that you've mentioned that, I'm kind of, I don't know. That's different, you know. That still, even though that is kind of a decent sized crossover, it is still just like, yeah, do a blue shirt in your game. It'll look cool, as opposed to a full on partnership for a game together. So yeah, I'd still say pretty unlikely.
Dumb. I don't know if you remember a classic called Brink. It was a 2011 parkour FPS game that Bethesda released. It had a lot of issues in terms of its online servers and bugs.
Disney Channel original movie.
Also a Disney Channel original movie. It's likely that the IP is dead and they're never going to use it, Dom, but entertain me with the thought of, do you think there's a possibility of a Brink reboot? And do you think that maybe it would change from a parkour FPS, considering parkour isn't the zeitgeist anymore, in online culture?
0%. No.
Okay, not even.
Okay, so I have an idea, Jared. What if they do a sequel to Brink that's a crossover with Brink the DCOM, and they call it Brink Brink?
God, or Tony Hawk's Brink.
But it could actually be cool if you're doing a shooter and you're like skating around on inline skates and doing tricks. I don't know, man. I don't know. Sounds pretty cool.
It doesn't sound like a Bethesda game.
That sounds like an Insomniac game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that does sound like Sunset Overdrive.
Sunset Brink.
Lastly, this is for you, Logan. Just an easy toss-up question. Will Pete Hines curse on stage this year?
Yeah, that's like a given every year.
Exactly.
If one of you guys didn't come with that prediction prepared, I mean, that's an easy 1 point if you want to predict that in a second. So.
Exactly. That's it pretty much for all the questions and speculation we have for Bethesda's conference this year. We're going to hop into the predictions. The way it's going to work is we're each going to give a prediction one at a time, go around to each of us, and then after we're done with each of our 3 predictions, we're going to give a dream prediction. And I guess I'll start. So my first prediction is going to be, they are going to show Evil Within 3, and it's going to have a 2020 release window attached to it. And I do think, I'll even add another thing to this, I do think it'll play on the same trailer aesthetic with the like white candle wax goo stuff. I think it'll definitely have that again. But yeah, E3, Evil Within 3 announced, and 2020. That's my prediction. Who's up? Jordan, you want to go next?
I'll go.
Okay.
So, shortly after an unnamed thespian exits the stage, we will be premiering a trailer for Starfield. I'm calling bullshit. I'm calling bullshit, and maybe they're gonna come back and say, "Well, we meant that it's not gonna be there gameplay wise." Maybe they have clarified. I don't know. But I think you'll get a CG trailer for Starfield because I just don't see how you can like tease people that way and then not bring it back this year, especially when you're in such dire need of a win and you have this Fallout 76 bullshit going on. So I'm calling BS, and I think we're getting the Starfield CG trailer. No gameplay.
Yeah, it could be that their original plan was definitely not to show either, and then the feedback, and they're like, "Oh, we need a win." I can see that. John, what's your first prediction?
All right, Evil Within 3 is shown October 21st, 2019 is announced as the release date.
Oh, it's coming out this year.
Yes.
Quick turnaround. Okay. It's pretty clear and concise. Logan, what's your first prediction?
I'm gonna go with Doom Eternal. I'm gonna go that we get a release date, and because that's so broad and that's probably gonna happen, I'll take it one step further. I think that the release date is going to be December 10th of 2019, which would line up with the original release date of the original Doom back in 1993.
Nice.
It's actually a Tuesday as well, so it's feasible that
indeed.
could happen.
Dude, what a good Christmas game.
And actually,
Just killing demons.
Jared, I said the wrong date. It would be October 22nd because that's the Tuesday
Okay.
before. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'm up, right? My second prediction. What do I go with? I think they announced Elder Scrolls Legends as a Switch port, and it's coming fall 2019.
Nice.
I don't think other platforms. So I'm not saying it's specifically like exclusive, but I do think that it'll be the marketing for it in the trailer will be Switch, right? It'll have the Switch at the end or whatever, the Switch logo. Yeah, Elder Scrolls Legends Switch port announced fall 2019. Jordan, what's your second prediction?
So, I kind of touched on this earlier. I think that you're going to see the reveal of Arcane Austin's new video game. And I think it's going to be a new IP because, like we said, they're getting away from Dishonored. And I think that it is going to be a third-person game.
Okay.
Which is actually interesting because they really have a deep, immersive sim first person history there, and going all the way back to like some of the original Deus Ex games. So that would be quite a formula break for them, but I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if they ever developed a non-first person game.
I guess not, because I think Dishonored 1 is their first game, so they've had 3.
Well, they did Call of Duty World at War.
Really?
Yeah.
Shit.
That was first person though too.
Treyarch.
That was Treyarch.
No, they helped with the development.
Yeah, but they didn't. They weren't the main developer on that. That was Treyarch.
Yeah, but I'm just saying they haven't
like
worked
deep.
on a. It's not going against your argument, Jordan. It's a first person shooter. I was just saying that they also worked on it.
That is like deep cut knowledge.
Well, I was just looking at their games they developed on their Wikipedia. That wasn't off the dome or anything. I'm not trying to take credit for that. Yeah. Cool. So third person, new IP. This doesn't have to go to your prediction, but do you have an idea of like a theme or a setting or anything like that you want them to do?
That's a good question. I think, it could be melee or it could be shooter focused as far as combat goes because they have both of those under their belt. It's obviously, I don't think it's going to be futuristic space sci-fi because that's Prey. For whatever reason, I'm looking into the crystal ball, Jared, and I'm seeing visions of some sort of Western, but maybe not as cut and dry as like your Red Dead Redemption.
It's like Western elements, right?
Yeah, maybe more like Dark Tower, where it might have some magic elements, or whatever. I don't know.
Interesting. Man, I hope if they do have a new IP, I hope it sells well for them because they could use a win. Dom, what's your second prediction?
Second prediction, Fallout 3 Remastered includes a Switch version too.
Switch version. Interesting.
And just Fallout 3. It's not gonna. New Vegas won't be mentioned or anything like that. So
you don't have to add this to your prediction, but would you release date? What do you think?
Just fall. They probably
So this year?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You think they'll call it Fallout 3 Special Edition like Skyrim?
Yeah. Sure. I don't know. Something.
Yeah.
Remastered, whatever they want to call it.
I would love if it was a combo with New Vegas, but because that wasn't developed by them, I think they just go 3 by itself with all the DLC.
Yeah.
Logan, what's your second prediction?
Which one do I want to choose? I'll say that either Pete Hines or Todd Howard, one of the two on stage, will say the words "I'm sorry" in regards to Fallout 76.
Wow. That's a good one.
That's a good one. Wow.
One of the two.
Or we're sorry, probably would be good too.
Yeah, what about we're sorry?
Any variant of insert to whatever and then sorry.
They will blatantly apologize is what you're saying.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
They will directly apologize to fans for that video game.
It's funny that you say the apology because it could be like id coming out with Doom Eternal, and they're like, there's so much like gore. I'm sorry to the parents out there that have kids watching. So they actually mentioned I'm sorry, but it has nothing to do with Fallout 76.
That'd be
funny. Man, I hope they do that, Logan, and I think they do need to do that. We don't know how they're feeling. Like if E3 happened a couple of months after the launch of Fallout 76, I think they'd be much more likely to do that. But even now, it's like they need to do it, but will they? We'll see.
Yeah.
Third prediction. I know what my dream one is. I'm trying to figure out. Let's see. I know. Okay, so
your dream.
This one, I don't think this is that much of a dream. Really, I think that we get this is going directly against Jordan's. We see a new IP. I think Arcane unveils a cinematic teaser for Prey 2. So it's not like I think it's just going basically just teasing that it's in development, and we see like a tease of a character or like some weird horror stuff. But it's not like an extended trailer. It's like a 30-second teaser with the logo at the end. I'll say no date, but I wouldn't be surprised if it said 2020.
Outside of your prediction, Jared, do you think that would mean, if that were the case, you think that means Arcane Austin is helping them? Because otherwise that studio hasn't done anything since 2016, whereas Prey came out in 2017. So
yeah, the way I'd imagine is that they're collaborative, and I think that because Prey did pretty well and Dishonored has obviously not done super well, that maybe Bethesda from top down was like, let's get working on this Prey 2 sequel while maybe a new IP is in like pre-production development, Who knows? Yeah. It could work either way. Arcane, in terms of studios that have multiple locations, they seem to work really close with one another. Maybe not necessarily on the same game at the same time, but they are very collaborative with their technology and stuff. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Austin handling it. But, yeah, so to go over real quick, Prey 2 30-second teaser reveal. That's pretty much it. Jordan, what's your last prediction?
Let's see what we got here, boys. So I think that this is kind of a weird one, but I'm going to say Fallout 76 goes free to play. Now, there's part of me that says I'm totally wrong in that if they were going to do this, they would have already done it. But now I think it's just barely far enough away that you'll hear less bitching. You'll still hear bitching, but less from the people that bought it for $60. So
less bitching?
Less bitching because it's not 2 months after release. So I feel like now would be the proper, if there was a proper time. I guess what I'm trying to say is that this is obviously a disaster. So if there was a proper time, I think it would be now, because I can't see any way that they're like still selling solid amounts of copies of this game at this point. So that's why I think it could be a possibility. And then you get those people in for free, but then they end up buying the expansion if you can actually make it a decent enough game for them to want to stick around.
Yeah, I could totally see it end up on Game Pass as well, to some extent. It going free to play isn't out of the realm of possibility. I think it's likely. I do think that like we're in this weird phase where I do think it's far enough away from the launch that it could go free to play, and it might be the last time in which it would make a big deal at all in terms of it being news, right? Because like any later, like by this time next year, no one's going to care if Fallout 76 goes free to play, So we'll see what happens. I think it's an interesting prediction. It's likely. That'd be crazy if that was hand in hand with the "we're sorry, it's free now," So Logan gets it right and you get it right.
Right.
Dom, what's your third prediction?
So, despite them saying that Starfield was not going to be shown, I think this is their one more thing. Well, we weren't originally planning on doing this, but kind of a thing. And they show us a trailer, no gameplay, no date, nothing like that. But Todd Howard does mention the phrase next gen, while introducing it, kind of a deal.
Okay. So I'm just seeing how. So yours differentiates from Jordan's because you're saying it's the one more thing, and he says next gen, which is different enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan, you said they show Starfield CG trailer, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm just trying to clarify.
Have they not already said that Starfield's next gen?
Yeah, they have, but I think Dom's saying that they reiterated this year. Like, this is our next gen title, you know.
Well, they never said it. He implied it in an interview.
He said next gen during the E3 conference.
Yeah, that's what I was
Watching up to doing research on this show, right before he announces them, he's like, I want to present to you guys what we have coming with next gen. He says next gen clearly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Logan, what's your last prediction?
I think that's more the one I'll do for the dream, so I'll do this one instead. We do see Arcane Studios' new IP. This is whatever they've got cooking up following Dishonored. I think it's, not Dishonored, not Prey. It's something totally new. I think it will still be first person, and I think it will come out in spring of next year.
Ooh, so this isn't like a spin-off.
No, this is something entirely new from them altogether. Yeah.
Trying to think of what my dream's going to be. Okay, so I'm going to say the first part of it, and then if you guys don't think that's dream enough, then I'll add a second part to it. So my dream is that Bethesda publishes a Japanese-developed game.
That's a dream to me.
I don't think there needs to be a part 2 to that.
Okay, because I was going to add that from software.
That's
That's
what I
the
figured.
dream. That's the pie in the sky. Yeah. I'm just gonna. Yeah, I'll go with Bethesda publishes a Japanese-developed game. So I was thinking Platinum too. They could Platinum teams up with everybody apparently. But yeah, so Bethesda publishes a Japanese-developed game. That's my dream.
Platinum makes, kind of janky games sometimes.
Jordan, what's your dream?
So is it okay if our dreams conflict with our realistic predictions?
Yeah, it's fine because the dreams are worth 3 points. The other ones are worth 1. But if they go against each other, you just have more chances to get it right depending on what happens.
Yeah. So like I said, I think that Arcane Austin would be doing a new IP, hopefully, or maybe a Western, I should say. But my dream is that Arcane Austin does a Dishonored spinoff that is third person.
Oh, cool.
And I think that could differentiate it enough. I think maybe they might realize, like, hey, we have something cool here, but maybe the first person stealth is keeping it from being a breakout success. And then they use that cool world and give you, I don't know, maybe it's a $40 game, who knows, but I could see them doing a third person spin-off with that already established world. That would be a dream for me, because I do want to like Dishonored more than I do. It's a little bit unfortunate.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are that way.
Man, that'd be crazy if they announced a third person. They're like Dishonored third person. That I think that is a dream scenario. There is a sliver of possibility, but yeah, it's definitely dream space.
Sure.
Sure. Dom, what's your dream?
Elder Scrolls Online announced for the Switch.
Whoa. That's a dream in the sense of I don't know if the infrastructure is strong enough for that.
Yeah, it's on the online. I know, like, locally it should have no problem running it, but yeah, as far as like the online side of it.
Repeat your prediction, Dom.
Elder Scrolls Online announced for the Switch.
Is it the base game, or is it like with it's like the Game of the Year edition with the expansions that are released so far? It doesn't matter.
Well, if all of that is stored server side, isn't it that all server side, all that content?
Yeah, but I'm saying in terms of
install
purchasing it, right?
Oh, I would assume they'd add all the expansions. Yeah.
Oh man, I don't. It is on consoles though, right? It's on PS4, Xbox.
Yeah, it's because it's on Game Pass on Xbox.
Okay. I don't think you could get that done, Dom. I don't think it's possible.
Yeah, I really don't either.
It is a dream. That'd be crazy. That would be a crazy announcement.
You want that to happen? Is that what you're saying, Dom?
What?
You want that to happen?
Yeah. Be excellent.
Because remember, he said he's wanted to get into online, but he can never get himself to play it. If it's on Switch, he has the opportunity to play it on the go. Mm-hmm. So.
Exactly.
Didn't realize you were into Elder Scrolls.
Oh yeah.
Logan, close us out. What's your dream pie in the sky?
I do think they will stay true to the fact that Elder Scrolls 6 is not showing up like formally with a trailer or anything. But my dream is that they reveal the title of the game and they say which region it will take place in. And that's it. Because I am tired of watching people trying to break down videos of people trying to guess where the region is, because like, oh well, the sun's rising over here, it's
Dark Brotherhood said in Skyrim that...
Yeah, like there are so many breakdown videos online of people just surveying the landscape of that one area that they showed from that trailer last year and like trying to figure out what region the game is in. I just want to know where it's at, and I don't think they'll show a trailer or anything like that. But
are you guys convinced necessarily that the area they show in the trailer is absolutely where we're going to be inhabiting?
100%.
Yeah. Howard said that trailer has like hints in it. So the smartest the smartest of Bethesda or Elder Scrolls fans could probably deduce from that trailer where it is at.
He likes to get a little Kojima with this stuff. Like, he likes to like be like, yeah, this is a hint for this. You know, I would 100% guarantee it's that area. Logan, to your dream, pie in the sky, I agree with you that if it were to happen, we probably won't get gameplay at all. But do you think there's a sliver of a chance, say this in a world where this does happen and they show the title, do you think we could get the image of, like, remember when we got the Skyrim image of the guy in the Dovahkiin armor? Do you think we could possibly get something like that related to the region if it did happen?
I think it would be no. I
Just
think
the title?
I think it would be like a Metroid Prime 4 situation where they show a JPEG of a title and everybody cheers.
God, I would really want like an animated environment behind the title of like the region. That'd be dope.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. I think that game is just so
far away,
so far out. Yeah.
Well,
My other backup dream was that Starfield will appear in some way and they will actually talk about it a little bit. I think that game's closer than people think. I think that game's like 2 years out, if that's close. I think that'll.
Yeah, I think it's like launch window for next gen.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be. I think it's like 2021.
That's a good bet. That's where I would place it too. That's it for our Bethesda. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I think that's 2021. I think Elder Scrolls is like 2024 or 5.
Yeah, midway through. It'll be like the Red Dead 2 of next gen, right? That big AAA that comes out mid gen. That's it for our Bethesda predictions. Thank you, Logan, for joining us once again. Another year in the books. Hopefully we get all our dreams answered and our predictions. Logan, can you please let people know where they can find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find all of my written work over on DualShockers, like Jared said at the top of the show. Be sure to follow our coverage, as we will be at E3 and playing a lot of games and giving our thoughts and stuff like that. We've always got a good E3 team, and we're even deeper than normal this year, so I'm sure that'll be fun. If you want to follow me personally, I'm on Twitter at moreman12. If you want to, I don't know, follow my terrible tweets or whatever the heck.
Listening to the ramblings of a madman.
Yeah, I'm trying to spend less time on that terrible website, but feel free to follow me over there if you want. And then other than that, yeah, I think that's about it.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys are going to be covering E3, so I suggest following DualShockers on Twitter as well, because you guys tweet out, obviously, all of your stories. It's a good way to keep in touch with what you guys are doing. Thank you guys for listening. We're going to have other bonus E3 coverage of other predictions for other conferences. If you can, please go to YouTube, search Controlled Interests, hit the subscribe button. The bell notification lets you know when our videos get uploaded, because YouTube's upload algorithm is all messed up. If you can, please go over to iTunes or any other podcast service. Follow us there. Leave us a review on iTunes. It definitely helps us out in that algorithm of moving up. It's all about algorithms, guys. And if you can, go over to Twitter, CTRLINT, that's Controlled Interests abbreviated. You can follow there, tweeting out all of the podcasts, all of the wacky video game related tweets I put out. You can follow me personally at Jared_. You can follow Dom at Dom's Oreos, and you can follow Jordan at Malamotis. Look forward to E3 2019. Hopefully we'll have Logan back next year and other podcasts throughout the year. Thank you again for joining us, Logan.
Yeah, no problem.
Catch you guys next time. Bye.